You think your comfort zone is protecting you. You believe that staying within familiar boundaries is the smart choice, the safe choice. But what if I told you that your comfort zone isn't a sanctuary at all? What if it's actually a beautifully decorated prison cell, and you've been holding the keys to your own captivity this entire time? This isn't going to be one of those feel-good videos that tells you everything will be okay if you just think positive thoughts. No, this is about the brutal truth that nobody wants to face. Your comfort zone is slowly killing the person you were meant to become. Let's start with what you think you know about comfort zones. You see it as that warm, familiar space where everything makes sense, where you can predict the outcomes, where you feel safe from the chaos of the outside world. Your daily routine, your familiar relationships, your predictable job, your same old patterns of thinking and behaving. It feels like home, doesn't it? Like a cozy blanket wrapped around your entire existence. But here's what you don't realize. That blanket isn't keeping you warm, it's suffocating you. Every day you spend in that zone of false security, you're trading pieces of your soul for the illusion of safety. The comfort zone is seductive because it promises you control. It whispers sweet lies in your ear. Stay here, and nothing bad will happen. Stay here, and you won't have to face rejection, failure, or disappointment. Stay here, and you can maintain this perfect image of yourself. But what it doesn't tell you is the price you're paying for this illusion of control. What it doesn't reveal is that while you're protecting yourself from potential pain, you're also cutting yourself off from potential greatness. You're choosing a life of mediocrity disguised as wisdom. Think about it for a moment. When was the last time you felt truly alive? Not just content, not just comfortable, but genuinely electrically alive. When was the last time you did something that made your heart race with excitement rather than anxiety? If you're struggling to remember, that's not an accident. That's the comfort zone doing exactly what it's designed to do, numbing you into a state of peaceful death while you're still breathing. You've become a ghost haunting your own life, going through the motions but never truly living. The first layer of this trap is the most obvious one, your daily routines and familiar patterns. You wake up at the same time, follow the same morning ritual, drive the same route to work, interact with the same people in the same predictable ways, come home to the same evening routine, and fall asleep in the same mental and emotional state you've been in for years. There's nothing inherently wrong with routine, but when routine becomes a prison, when it becomes the only thing standing between you and the unknown, it transforms from a helpful structure into a life sentence. But the second layer runs much deeper, and this is where things get uncomfortable. The real price of your comfort zone isn't just boredom or missed opportunities. The real price is the slow erosion of your vitality, your passion, your very essence as a human being. Every day you choose safety over growth, you're choosing death over life. You're choosing to be a shadow of yourself rather than stepping into the fullness of who you could become. Your dreams start to feel like distant memories, your ambitions begin to feel like childish fantasies, and your authentic self gets buried under layers of practical decisions and realistic expectations. This is where most people stop looking. They acknowledge that maybe they're a bit stuck, maybe they could use a little more excitement in their lives, but they don't dig deeper. They don't ask the hard questions about why they're so attached to their comfort zones in the first place. They treat it like a surface-level problem that can be solved with a little motivation or a change of scenery. But you and I both know it goes much deeper than that, doesn't it? The third layer is where Carl Jung's concept of the shadow comes into play, and this is where things get really interesting. Your shadow isn't just the parts of yourself that you don't like or try to hide from others. Your shadow is the repository of all the potential you've abandoned, all the dreams you've given up on, all the courage you've refused to access, all the power you've been afraid to claim. It's everything you could be but have chosen not to be, often for reasons you don't even consciously understand. Here's the kicker: your shadow doesn't just disappear because you ignore it. It doesn't vanish because you've built a comfortable life that helps you avoid confronting it. Instead, it becomes the invisible puppet master of your existence. It's the voice that tells you to stay small, to not take risks, to not draw attention to yourself. It's the force that keeps you addicted to comfort even when that comfort is slowly destroying your soul. Your shadow has become the guardian of your prison, and it's using your own fear against you. Every time you choose the safe option over the growth option, you're not just avoiding discomfort, you're feeding your shadow. Every time you stay quiet when you should speak up, every time you play it small when you could go big, every time you choose what's familiar over what's calling to you, you're giving your shadow more power over your life. And the cruel irony is that the very thing you think is protecting you, your comfort zone, is actually the place where your shadow feels most at home. Your shadow loves your comfort zone because it's the perfect hiding place. In the familiar, predictable world of your daily routine, your shadow can operate without being detected. It can influence your decisions, limit your choices, and keep you trapped without you even realizing what's happening. It's like having an invisible prison guard who's convinced you that the cell door is locked when it's actually been open this entire time. But here's what your shadow doesn't want you to know. It's not actually trying to destroy you. As twisted as it sounds, your shadow developed as a protective mechanism. At some point in your life, probably when you were very young, you learned that certain parts of yourself weren't acceptable, weren't safe to express, weren't welcome in the world. So you pushed those parts into the shadow, thinking you were protecting yourself. But what started as protection has become a prison. The uncomfortable truth is that your shadow contains not just your fears and insecurities, but also your greatest strengths, your deepest wisdom, and your most powerful potential. All the qualities you've been afraid to own, all the dreams you've been scared to pursue, all the power you've been terrified to claim, it's all sitting there in your shadow, waiting for you to be brave enough to face it. Your comfort zone isn't protecting you from danger. It's protecting you from your own magnificence. And speaking of facing uncomfortable truths, here's one that might sting. If this video is hitting a little too close to home, if you're feeling that familiar discomfort that comes when someone points out something you've been trying not to see, then do me a favor and hit that like button. Not because I need the validation, but because that simple act of engagement is practice for the bigger acts of courage you're going to need in your life. If you can't even risk the tiny vulnerability of liking a video that challenges you, how are you going to risk the bigger vulnerabilities that real growth requires? Now, let's talk about what this Shadow Comfort Zone Alliance actually looks like in your daily life. It's the voice that says, maybe next year when opportunity knocks. It's the feeling that convinces you you're not ready, not qualified, not worthy. It's the pattern of starting projects with enthusiasm and then finding perfectly logical reasons to abandon them before they get challenging. It's the way you find yourself attracted to people and opportunities that keep you small rather than inspire you to grow. Your shadow is incredibly clever. It doesn't usually tell you outright lies that you'd easily recognize. Instead, it tells you partial truths, logical-sounding rationalizations, and perfectly reasonable explanations for why you should stay exactly where you are. Sounds like wisdom, like prudence, like self-care. But underneath all those reasonable-sounding excuses is a simple message. Don't risk anything real, don't try anything that might fail, don't step into your power because you might not be able to handle it. The shadow thrives on what Jung called unconscious projection. You start to see all the qualities you've disowned in yourself showing up in other people. You judge others for being too bold, too confident, too willing to take risks. You criticize people who are living the life you secretly want but are too afraid to pursue. You become allergic to authenticity in others because it reminds you of the authenticity you've buried in your own shadow. Your comfort zone becomes not just a place you retreat to, but a fortress you defend against anyone who might inspire you to want more. But here's where the story takes a turn toward hope. Your shadow isn't your enemy, even though it might feel like it sometimes. Your shadow is actually the key to your liberation. All that power you've been afraid of, all that potential you've been hiding from, all those dreams you've convinced yourself are impossible, they're not gone. They're just waiting in the shadow for you to be ready to reclaim them. The very thing you've been running from is the thing that can set you free. The process of shadow integration isn't about becoming a different person. It's about becoming a whole person. It's about reclaiming all the parts of yourself that you abandoned along the way. It's about recognizing that the qualities you've been most afraid of might actually be your greatest gifts in disguise. That boldness you've been scared of, it might be exactly what the world needs from you. That sensitivity you've tried to hide, it might be your superpower. That ambition you've been ashamed of, it might be the fuel for your greatest contribution. But integration requires something that your comfort zone has been protecting you from. It requires you to feel everything you've been avoiding. All the fear, all the uncertainty, all the vulnerability that comes with stepping into your full power. Your comfort zone promised you that you could avoid these feelings forever, but that was a lie. The only way out is through. The only way to freedom is to walk directly into the fire you've been running from. This is where most people give up. They catch a glimpse of their shadow. They feel the intensity of what integration requires, and they retreat back to the familiar safety of their comfort zone. They convince themselves that maybe they're fine as they are, maybe they don't really need to grow, maybe the status quo isn't so bad after all. But you're not most people, are you? You're here, listening to this, which means some part of you knows that settling for comfortable mediocrity isn't an option anymore. The beautiful and terrifying truth is that your comfort zone will never give you permission to leave. Your shadow will never volunteer to be integrated. The part of you that's been keeping you small will never suddenly decide to help you grow. The change has to come from you. The choice has to be yours. The courage has to be summoned from someplace deeper than your fear, someplace stronger than your conditioning, someplace more powerful than your shadow. And here's what happens when you finally make that choice, when you finally decide that your growth is more important than your comfort. The world starts to respond differently to you. Opportunities that were always there but invisible to you suddenly become obvious. People who were waiting for you to show up as your authentic self suddenly appear in your life. Resources that you convinced yourself you didn't have access to suddenly become available. It's not magic, it's not luck, it's not accident. It's what happens when you stop hiding from yourself and start showing up as who you really are. The integration process isn't a one-time event. It's an ongoing practice, a daily choice, a moment-by-moment decision to choose growth over safety, authenticity over approval, courage over comfort. Some days you'll nail it, other days you'll retreat back into old patterns. That's not failure, that's human. The key is to keep coming back, to keep choosing yourself, to keep facing whatever your shadow has to show you. Your shadow will test you. It will present you with situations designed to see if you're really ready to step into your power or if you'll retreat back to the familiar patterns. It will offer you perfectly good reasons to play small, logical excuses to stay stuck, reasonable justifications for giving up on your dreams. But now you know what's happening. Now you can recognize the voice of your shadow and choose not to listen to it. The most profound realization in this journey is that your comfort zone was never actually comfortable. It was just familiar. There's a difference between genuine peace and the numbness that comes from avoiding life. There's a difference between real security and the false safety that comes from never taking risks. There's a difference between true contentment and the resignation that comes from giving up on your dreams. Once you taste real aliveness, real authenticity, real growth, you'll wonder how you ever confuse stagnation with satisfaction. This is your invitation to step out of the beautiful prison you've built for yourself. This is your call to face the shadow that's been running your life from behind the scenes. This is your opportunity to reclaim all the parts of yourself that you've been hiding, denying, or projecting onto others. It won't be easy, it won't be comfortable, and it definitely won't be predictable. But it will be real, it will be yours, and it will be worth every moment of discomfort you have to endure to get there. The comfort zone dies the moment you dare to walk into the unknown. That's where your shadow waits, and not to destroy you, but to give you back the parts of yourself you left behind. The keys to your prison aren't hidden somewhere outside of you, waiting for someone else to find them and set you free. They're in your hands right now. They always have been. The question isn't whether you can escape your comfort zone. The question is whether you're finally ready to admit that you never needed to be trapped in the first place.